Welcome to Legendary Talks, a My Spring Harvest podcast bringing you the best sermons, Bible studies and seminars from over the decades. Today we're hearing from Robin, Vincent and Kate Durrox as they share their insights on the role of parents, from trainers to consultants, at Spring Harvest 2024.
Welcome to the seminar, 5 Myths of Parenting Exposed. I am Robin Vincent. I am Hannah's husband. I am Darby and Jake's dad. They are now in their 20s. And I am also Care for the Family's chief executive. And on behalf of myself and Kate Durrox, who's with me this morning, and on behalf as well of the whole Care for the Family team, thank you so much for coming to this parenting seminar. We're just so grateful that you're with us. We're going to cover these myths this morning, and whether you subscribe to them all or not, whether you believe in some of them or none of them, it's still helpful for us to be reminded about them. Because when we cover these myths, it gives us a perspective about parenting. And having the right perspective is really, really important, because it also gives our children the right perspective as well. And that will help our relationship with them. So let me just pray as we begin, shall we? Let's just pray. You know, the wonderful thing about God is He knows everyone here. He knows all about our circumstances, our situation, and our families. So let's just pray. Holy Spirit, we invite you here. Father, we ask you to speak to us this morning about our families, about our children, about our relationships. We pray that you would speak to us. We thank you that you know us. You know everything about our families. You know everything about our situation. We invite you here and we say, Lord, in something from this morning, will you give us something to encourage us, help us, continue that, to strengthen that relationship with our child or our children. We invite you here. Amen. Amen. Well, I realise in a room like this, there will be all kinds of families present. Some of you will have older children, some of you will have younger children, or a mix. There will be children represented in this room who might be being fostered or adopted or facing specific challenges right now, or maybe with additional needs as well. And that means if there's all kinds of families present, that means there's all kinds of parents present as well. Some of you will be parenting alone, some of you will be parenting together or parenting apart. Some of you will be experienced parents. You should be here. And some of you will be maybe even exhausted parents. It's a miracle you're even there, I'm sure, this morning. But you are also so welcome. And you know, it's difficult for us as parents, isn't it? But also I'm recognizing that in the room as well will be grandparents, maybe some carers, aunt and uncles, everybody who may be having a desire just to really connect with a child. And I hope we might be able to speak to you this morning. So we're going to dive straight into myth 1. Myth 1 is this: I need to be the perfect parent. I need to be the perfect parent. You know, the responsibility of raising children can be immense. Sometimes it can be all-consuming. And as parents, we can often feel that we are failing or falling short in some way. Such as when you're 1 hour into a car journey to go to West Wales for a family holiday, and your 8-year-old son, Jake, announces from the back that he has forgotten to put any shoes on his feet. And then you, in irritation, get out of the car, go to the boot and realise that you have forgotten to put any of his shoes in the boot as well. It can be irritating to be a parent. It can be frustrating. And sometimes you can just feel like you're falling short. You know, we were on a family holiday. The kids were young. We went to the Lake District this time. We were camping. I managed to get up early. I managed to get up early. I managed to read the Bible. You know, on holiday, you do things that you wish you did in the normal times. Well, I read the Bible, so I was feeling pretty cool and pretty good about myself. I would have read something like from Ephesians Fathers, don't exasperate your children. Husbands, love your wife as Christ loved the church. And I felt good about myself, and I thought this is going to be an incredible holiday in the Lake District with the kids, with Hannah. We're going to have an amazing time. It's going to be remembered for all the right reasons. Well, it was remembered, but not for the reasons that I anticipated. Because by lunchtime, we were lost on a mountainside in fog. Darby, my daughter, was crying and cold. Hannah, my wife, wasn't crying, but I was feeling a degree of coldness. And I genuinely, I'm not proud of this, and I don't know what the best way to describe it, tantrum, paddy, whatever you wish to call it. I threw the map and compass down on the floor in a tantrum, in a puddle, whereupon my shoe-forgetting 8-year-old son was the mature one in the whole family group who said, can we not just climb this mountain and grow up? Parenting is like that, isn't it? Parenting is like that. We don't feel like we get it right at times. You know, not long ago, my son said to me after a conversation I had with somebody when he was witnessing it, and he was a teenager at this time, but he said this to me, Dad, you sounded entitled. Where do you go when parenting is like that? Where do you go? Well, we have to remember in those moments a couple of things. Firstly, there really are no experts when it comes to your own children. And secondly, it's this myth that we need to be the perfect parent. You know, as parents, we will make mistakes. Killing their goldfish by placing it in too warm water was a mistake. Leaving their gerbils in the garden overnight outside on the grass because they wouldn't get back into the cage was a mistake. Allowing the hamster to fall into the recycling bin where it spent the week at the bottom of the bin was definitely a mistake. And accidentally leaving Jacob behind at church was also a mistake. We will make mistakes. Losing my cool when they damaged the laminate flooring was a mistake. There really are no experts when it comes to our own children. And it's a myth to think that we need to be perfect. But not only do we make mistakes, they make mistakes as well. When Jay was about 12, he liked chocolate milk. I came into the lounge one day. He's sitting there watching television on the floor, and by him, right by the floor, on the carpet, is a full glass of chocolate milk. To which I give some parenting advice. You know, the kind of parenting advice is totally pointless, because I said to him, don't spill that, as if that was his intention. Jake, absolutely confidently went like this to me. And I promise you that his overstated confidence, my stupid parenting advice, somehow combined to create a mysterious force that entered our lounge, which is why seconds later, I was on my knees calling for towels to mop up chocolate milk. Our children will make mistakes. But I have discovered this, that our mistakes, their mistakes, are opportunities. Because in our mistakes and in their mistakes, we can show them what forgiveness looks like. We can show them how to ask for it, and we can show them how to give it. And how we respond to our mistakes, their mistakes, really, really matters. Not only is it an opportunity, but it's an opportunity where the effects can last a long time. Far longer than the smell of sour milk on a lounge carpet. Jake is 22 now. He doesn't drink chocolate milk any longer. He drinks San Pellegrino. Yeah, some of you know what that is. For the rest of you, like myself as well, San Pellegrino is a posh lemonade. Well, he drinks San Pellegrino. And 1 week into his final year at university, Jake managed to knock an entire glass of San Pellegrino over his brand new, very expensive laptop. And he rang me from university to tell me literally it just happened, which is why seconds later I was on the phone to my insurance company kissing goodbye to the 10 years no claims discount that I just got after the chocolate milk spillage 10 years earlier. But here's the thing. I can't really remember how I really responded to the chocolate milk all those years earlier. But it has made me wonder whether however I responded laid a foundation in Jake to believe that it would be okay to ring me immediately about the laptop a decade later. One of the greatest stories that Jesus ever told was that of a young man who rejected his family and his father. He went far from home, full of cash, full of confidence. He made a series of choices, a set of circumstances, and made mistakes. Do you know, if you look at that story, we're only told this, how he felt about going home. But it's also clear, if you think about it, that that young man knew that going home was an option. And children need to know that there's a way back from mistakes. That going home is always an option. And when they're growing up, this is our opportunity to teach them that for when they're older. Our mistakes, their mistakes can lay a foundation of forgiveness and understanding what forgiveness looks like. And those foundations may help them find that road home when they really need it later in their life. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a myth to think that we need to be the perfect parent. The truth is, we can't. But there are many ways that we can be great parents. And one way we can do that is by demonstrating the simple practice of forgiveness, by asking forgiveness from them and by giving forgiveness to them. And as we do that, we might point them towards a more perfect parent than any of us could ever be, our Father in heaven. And we might also lay the foundations and teach them how they can find the way home when they really, really need it. Well, to tackle our second myth, let me introduce to you Kate Durrox. Kate is married to Alessio. She has 2 daughters. Kate is an incredible member of our community engagement team. She's based in London. She's spoken in loads of different contexts. She's recently just delivered parenting sessions to prisoners in Wandsworth Prison. Would you just mind just giving Kate a warm welcome now as she deals with our second myth? Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Robin, and good morning, everyone. It's lovely to be here with you today. And yes, it's true that recently I've been delivering some parenting sessions with dads in prison, and that's been an incredible, humbling experience, which I've really, really enjoyed. But also, over the last few years, I've delivered many, many parenting sessions in lots of different contexts. And you know, the biggest thing that parents often say at the end of sessions, the biggest thing they take away is often the same. And it doesn't matter whether it's a parent who's in prison or in church or in school. The biggest thing that we hear at the end of sessions after parents have met together and talked together is this. They say, it's such a relief to know that it's not just me. So let's have a look at our second myth today, the myth that I'm the only one. Do you remember when you were a new parent? I remember when my eldest daughter, Amelie, was tiny. She's 19 now, but I think back to when she was tiny and I was just trying to get to grips with being a new parent and looking after a little one. And I was just trying to learn as I went along. I was trying to do the best I could, but actually I was worrying about everything. I didn't really know if I was doing things right. And at times, it felt isolating and lonely. But then I got to know a group of other local mums who had babies the same age, and we started to meet together. And we met together for coffee and a chat in a local coffee shop near to where we lived. And we used to just talk, We used to just chat about our babies. We chatted about how they were doing, but we also chatted about how we were doing. Sometimes we ended up laughing together over so many things that the babies were doing or the way we'd handled them. Other times, we tried to answer each other's questions as best as we could. And other times, we just cried together. And what I discovered through those times together was that it was powerful just to have someone else to talk to. Someone who'd either just been through that same experience or who was going through the same thing. Because when I talked to other people, I realized that I wasn't the only one, and that actually lots of us were going through similar experiences and similar questions, and that helped so much. And so if you're feeling on your own, if you're feeling like you're the only one, whether you're a mum or a dad, maybe find someone else that you can go and grab a coffee with and just talk. Then when I got to the school gate years, I started talking to all the other parents at the school gates, and I realized, wow, although our kids are so different and we're so different too, actually we've got so much in common. And so we started to meet together, and we used some of the Care for the Family materials to have some conversations about parenting and share our experiences. And we got together and we went through one set of material to talk about the primary years. And then as the kids got older, we used another set of Care for the Family materials to talk about the teenage years, just to prepare ourselves for that next phase of their lives. And again, I found that talking to other parents was just so helpful and so reassuring in realizing that I wasn't the only one and that there were others who were going through the same. And maybe that's something that you'd like to do too. Maybe you have a group in mind, some other parents from church or maybe from school, and you could gather together either in someone's lounge or maybe at church and use some of the Care for the Family materials to have some of those conversations about parenting and family life. But maybe you're going through a very particular challenge. What if you feel like you don't have a support network who understands your situation? Maybe you don't know who to turn to. Well, we want to let you know that we, as Care for the Family, are there for you. There might be all sorts of reasons why you feel like you're on your own. I have a friend who has a daughter who was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes in the middle of the pandemic, and that's a huge thing to navigate. And I think she felt that none of her friends really understood the enormity of that challenge and what she was going through, and she was probably right, we didn't. But she did ring Care for the Family, and we were able to put her in touch with another parent, one of our befrienders, who has a child with a similar medical need. And that was someone who understood because they were on the same journey. They were just a little bit further along, and they were able to understand. So whatever your parenting journey looks like, we just want to promise you that you're not on your own. If you need someone to talk to, you can ring Care for the Family. We can listen to you, we can support you, we can signpost you. We have befrienders that we can put you in touch with. We're hosting a lunch for single parent families here in the Skyline today at 1:15, right here. If you're a single parent, come along and join us. We've also got a lunch tomorrow for families of children with additional needs. Again, it's here in the Skyline, and you're so welcome to join us. You just need to bring your lunch with you and come and meet with others who are in the same situation. Do come and chat to us after the seminar today. We'll be over there just afterwards, or you can come and see us in the exhibition area as well. So if you have someone in mind that you can speak to, do get in touch and arrange to have a coffee with them. If you've got others that you think you could gather together with, maybe at church or at school, get together in someone's lounge or at church and use the Care for the Family materials to have those conversations about parenting. There are so many fantastic resources that you can access on our website, and many of them are free of charge. And finally, if you don't know who to turn to, please get in touch with us at Care for the Family. We are there for you, and we would love to help, whether you're a mum, a dad, a grandparent, or a carer. The myth is that I'm the only one. But the truth is, you're not on your own. There's always someone else. Robin.
Thanks, Kate. Well, let's come to myth 3 then. The words, I love you, are enough. Now, our children need to hear those words, I love you. And of course, if I just say this because we're just always aware there's so many different children represented here. Some of our children will be hearing impaired. So when I say they need to hear those words, I love you, I also mean they hear them, yeah? But they do need to hear those words, I love you, at every opportunity we can give them. In fact, I was on the phone to my son this morning and I said to him at the end of the call, I love you. Those 3 words really matter. And to say them repeatedly over our children is life-giving. But there are other ways as well that we need to communicate our love for them. Other ways that we will say, I love you. And these are often called the 5 love languages. And the first one of those love languages is words of affirmation. It's going a little bit differently to I love you. It's words of affirmation. You know, when I was a young boy, aged 11, I would get home from school. I would get that school uniform off as quickly as possible. I would put my Arsenal football shirt on. And outside my home, most evenings, I played striker for Arsenal. That's good at the moment as well, because they're doing rather well. I played striker for Arsenal. I'm telling you, I won FA Cups, League Cups, Championships, World Cups, more than I've lost count how many I won. I was obsessed with Arsenal, which meant that when I visited my aunt and uncle one day with my family, and we were in the kitchen with my uncle, and he asked me what did I want to do when I grew up, my reply was immediate. I'm going to play for Arsenal. That was decades ago. But I can still remember now my uncle's reply. That's never going to happen. I don't think my uncle was trying to be cruel. I think he was trying to be kind. But he'd never seen me kick a football. He'd never seen me play football. And I was a boy and I had dreams of fans chanting my name and all that kind of stuff. However, in the room at that time with my uncle and myself, listening to that conversation was my father. And whilst I can still remember what my uncle said all those decades ago, I can also remember what my father said. Someone has to. Words of affirmation are life-giving, and they get remembered for a long time. Those 3 words, someone has to, told me that my father loved me as much as him saying the words, I love you, as well. Kate recently shared how she was going away on a work trip, and one of her daughters at the time was young and not particularly happy about this trip and her mum going away, and she felt quite sad. Kate decided she'd write her a little card, a little note, just a tiny little card that just said, "Be brave." And she left it on her pillow. Kate, when she shared this with me recently, said that card is still sitting on her daughter's bedside table to this very day. That's the power of words of affirmation. It's a way that we can tell our kids that we love them.
Hello, it's Abby Guinness here. I hope you're enjoying this episode of Legendary Talks. If you're looking for more inspirational and insightful content like this, may I direct your attention to My Spring Harvest Plus. It's our streaming website with hundreds of great talks from Spring Harvest events, present and past. It's only £5.50 a month to subscribe for all kinds of excellent content. Tap or click the link in the description or caption to discover more about My Spring Harvest Plus.
The second love language is physical touch. Now, obviously, physical touch and the way this looks will be different from every child and for every age. For example, when my kids were toddlers, if you've got young children here, toddlers, I just commend this kind of thing to you. But when they were toddlers, I used to get them, I'd put them on the floor and I'd just try and kiss their bellies all over and go, kiss attack, kiss attack, kiss attack. My kids loved it. And they can still remember it now, and they felt loved. Of course, as they got a bit older, it didn't stop, it just needed to change. Which meant when they were toddlers, at the time I was in the police. And so naturally in the police, all your kids have got little police uniforms themselves, haven't they, and plastic radios. And so they were in primary school, I was a police officer, and we used to play a game at home, and this is how it went. I would go into the lounge and act in a suspicious manner. I would have a swag bag, and then my daughter would be on patrol in her little flory jacket, police cap, and plastic radio. She would come across me in the lounge. She would see that I was acting suspiciously and decide to arrest me. Whereupon I would begin to struggle and resist arrest. She would shout into her radio, "Assistance required, more officers." I taught them all the terminology. Whereupon her little brother, with policeman's helmet, flurry jacket, and truncheon, plastic truncheon, was waiting in the hallway for the call. He came charging in with full of enthusiasm, full of energy, and a little overzealous, I think, and together they would subdue me and arrest me, and then they'd go on the radio and say, "One in custody." My kids love that game. We played it over and over again. That is the love language of physical touch. Of course, eventually they grew out of that. I wouldn't even like to try it now, actually, to be fair. But the time they were teenagers, the way we spoke that language of touch had changed. By then we were on high fives and fist bumps. And in fact, hugs just disappeared and went out the window for a while. But they do come back, you know. Often they come back. So hang on in there. But whenever you can, however much you can, let your children know that you love them by the love language of physical touch. Some will prefer it more than others, but some will absolutely adore it. Then the third way is act of service. The love language of service is another way that we can say, "I love you." Now, this is less about us doing stuff for them. Often it's more about doing stuff alongside them. Maybe it's a chore alongside them. Maybe it's helping your daughter or your son do revision or something like that. But of course it might be fixing something of theirs that is broken. But little moments where we serve them do tell our kids that we love them. And for some of our children, acts of service is maybe the way that they most receive love. And so it's important that we explore that as well. And then number 4, the love language of gifts. I once told my daughter, "No, I don't want to high five you. I just want you to stop asking me for cash." So that's the reality of parenting, isn't it? And when Darby was a teenager, she loved iced vanilla lattes. And so we can do gifts like that, but they're expensive, aren't they? But even this week, I bought Darby a 99p second-hand book on Amazon that I'm going to give her for her birthday. And I know that that gift will mean as much to Darby as any present of any value. So for us, the love language of gifts with our children is this. It's not about the costs. It's about us being considerate and thinking of them. It may be that you'll be able to bring them something back one day that's just as cheap as anything, but because it means something to them, it will tell them that you love them. I know parents who've got young kids and they sometimes just take their kids down to a car boot sale and say, you can buy anything you want for £2, or I'll buy you something and you buy yourself something. It's the love language of gifts at work, and it tells our kids that we love them. And then finally, there is the love language of time. This is not just quality time, but also quantity time, when we can tell our kids that we love them with our time. And that means sometimes to do that, we need to say no to something or someone else. A mum attended one of our Care for the Family parenting sessions, and she realized that she was often distracted when her teenage children began to talk to her. And so she made the decision that the next time they began a conversation with her, she would stop whatever she was doing. She would let that all down. She would go and sit by them and engage in that conversation. And that day came, and she said the effects of that were transformational. She sat at the kitchen table, had a conversation with her daughter that she'd never had before, so much so that her teenage son, who was in the other room, cottoned on to this. He stopped what he was doing. He came and joined them at the kitchen table. That is the love language of time. And it could be teenagers or toddlers when we get down on the floor and we play a game with them. Whatever it may be, it will communicate to our kids that we love them. So naturally, physical ability, cost, circumstances, all that stuff may limit us or get in the way of the ways that we can speak these love languages to our children. I get that. But when we can, if we can, however much we can, if we learn to communicate to our children that we love them and say it in many different ways, we will be laying something in there for them that they will not forget and they will hold on to dearly. So how do we know which is our child's love language, which ones they really, really enjoy and benefit from? The truth is, the only way to discover it is try them all. Try them all out. If you try them all, after a while, you begin to notice that some have more of an impact than others, such as Kate's card to her daughter that's still on that bedside table. We live in a world that says to our children, in order to be loved, you need to be good looking, slim, sporty, rich, popular. You need to be followed if you can. And if you can't, we'll follow somebody who's worth following. But our home, we can speak to them in a language of love that says consistently, repeatedly, I love you for who you are. And that is an incredible truth to send a kid into the world with. Kate.
So, myth 4. Myth 4 is making my child happy is the most important thing. Is it? Is making my child happy the most important thing? Well, you know, when my daughters, Amelie and Elise, were younger, they used to forget things sometimes that they were meant to take to school. So we'd be just outside the school gate and one of them would pipe up and say something like, oh, I haven't got my lunch bag, or I haven't got my musical instrument, or my maths homework, or whatever it might be. And of course, it was always the end of the world. So I'd find myself dashing back home, grabbing whatever it was that they'd forgotten, and then cycling back to school at top speed so that they could have whatever it was that they'd forgotten and not be upset. And of course, I was always just resigning myself to being late for work yet again. But then, one day when I was cycling back, I thought, hang on a minute. I've saved the day once again. I've made sure they're happy. But is it really helpful when I just bail them out and rescue them every time they forget something? Is that the right thing to do? What are they actually learning when I do that? Because, my goal as a parent can't just be to make them happy. My goal as a parent has to be to make them ready. I have to make them ready for adulthood and ready for life and whatever that's going to throw at them. They're going to face challenges and ups and downs, and when things go wrong when they're older, they're going to have to show grit and resilience, and they'll have to take responsibility for themselves, and they won't be able to get away with just forgetting things. It's nice to make them happy, and of course I want my children to be happy. But actually it dawned on me that some of the things that I was doing as a parent were not really making my children ready. And so what I realized as I was cycling back to school yet again with the forgotten item in hand, what I realized is I wasn't actually riding a bike. Actually, it was more like I was driving a snowplow. Now, what do I mean by that? Driving a snowplow. Well, if you think of a snowplow goes ahead and it clears the path, it moves all the snow out of the way, getting rid of all the obstacles. And I was doing the same thing for my girls. I was clearing everything out of the path that could be difficult for them so that they wouldn't have to face it and they would just be happy. And of course, I was doing that with the very best intentions. But it wasn't really helpful in making them ready. And as parents, we're constantly having to decide how to handle things, aren't we? We have to decide, what am I going to do in this situation? And it's completely natural to want to make them happy. But I think also we always have to have in the back of our minds, is the way I'm parenting helping to make them ready? The other evening, my husband, Alessio, was out, and it was just going to be me at home with my 16-year-old, Elise. And so I thought, great, lovely opportunity to spend some quality time with Elise. We'll have a girls' night. It will just be the two of us. We'll watch a film together. So we got some tea and some chocolate, and we settled down on the sofa to watch a nice film. And it got to that time in the evening when I thought, hang on a minute, if we're going to finish this film, it's going to be late, it's going to be way beyond both our bedtimes. We've both got busy days tomorrow. She's got school, I've got work, she's also got a maths test. And at a certain point, she looked over, of course, at the time we usually go and get ready for bed, and she said, shall we just watch a bit more? And I had to think, how am I going to answer that question? Now, I knew what answer was going to make her happy, but is that the same answer as what will ultimately help her to be ready? Well, in our parenting sessions at Care for the Family, we talk about 3 recognized styles of parenting. And these are a great way of helping us think through the impact on our children and some of the ways that we parent. So let's just have a little look at these now and see how they might help us to see what I do with my daughter in answering that question and what the impact might be. So the first way that I could answer her question and respond to that thing of shall we stay up and watch a bit more of the film even though it's way past bedtime would be to say, no, absolutely not. You know what time you need to be in bed by. You need to go get ready for bed right now. And maybe I'd grab the remote control and turn off the TV myself and send her off to bed. That would be what we call an authoritarian parenting style. And at Care for the Family, we like to show that with this little sheep who's all penned in. This style, the authoritarian style, is all about the rules, the fences. Do as you're told, don't argue. But have a little look at the sheep on the slide. How do you think he's feeling? He doesn't look very happy to me. Now, of course, there are going to be times when I need to lay down the law and I need to say what she needs to do. But if I'm always bossy and controlling, Elise is probably going to feel pretty cross and resentful. And it might feel a bit over the top for the situation that we're in. And to be honest, it's probably not great for our relationship, especially when we've just had a lovely evening together watching a film. So responding to her question in that authoritarian way is probably not going to make her either happy or ready. A second way that I could respond would be pretty much the opposite. So I could say something like, sure, why not? You know, we're having a great time. It's a lovely film. You know, what do you want to do? You decide. I don't mind. That's what we call permissive parenting. That style is all about the freedom. Have a look at our little sheep here. He can go anywhere. He can do anything. There aren't any fences or boundaries in sight. And this is definitely the tempting, easy option, isn't it? We're having a lovely time. I don't want to spoil the atmosphere. I get to avoid an argument. And I know that this will make Elise happy. And you know, as an exception, on the weekend, of course, it's probably absolutely fine. But it's a school night and a work night, and she's got a maths test the next day. Look again at the sheep. He's free to go anywhere and do anything he wants. But actually, I think he also looks a bit more confused than he looks happy. Why doesn't bedtime matter tonight? Isn't that maths test as important as you seem to think it was earlier on today when you were making me study so hard for it? Having so much freedom and no fences is probably going to make Elise happy in the short term, but I think in the long term, it's probably not that helpful in making her ready. So let's look at the third way in which I can respond. The third sheep that we have represents the assertive parenting style, which is somewhere in between. So look at our sheep here. He has a nice little field to move around in. He's got freedom to explore, but there are also fences around the field to keep him safe. Now remember, it's a weeknight. Elise has school, she has her maths test, I've got my busy day at work. Both of us really need to go to bed. And I think what's going to help make Elise ready is learning that she can't always do what she wants. Because that's life, isn't it? None of us can. We can't always do what we want. She needs to learn that actions and choices have consequences. And she needs to learn to take responsibility and make good choices because she has a test the next day. So an assertive parent would say something like this. You know what, Elise? It's pretty late. We've both got busy days tomorrow. Why don't we watch to the end of the next scene and then we can both go and get ready for bed? Now, I've given a little bit of flex. I've explained my decision. I've been firm, but I've also been fair. I'm maybe not going to be that popular in that moment, but I'm looking at the bigger picture. And it is a bit tricky. Elise rolls her eyes, she sighs and huffs and puffs. She's not very happy. But after the end of the next scene, she pauses the film, she turns off the TV, and we both head off to bed. Now, studies show that the assertive parenting style leads to the best outcomes for our children. They won't always like it when we enforce the boundaries. But in the long run, it's these fences, these boundaries, that help them to feel secure. And look at our little sheep. He actually looks quite content. Our children need both the freedom and the fences. This is the parenting style that's going to help make them ready. Now, of course, sometimes we can flip between all three parenting styles, even within the space of an hour. But we always need to think, where do we want to be? The myth is that making my child happy is the most important thing. But the truth is, more important is making my child ready. So we've had a look at myth 4. We've had a look at this idea that making our children happy is maybe not as important as making our children ready. So before Robin comes back and takes us through our final myth and brings our session to a close, can I just emphasize to you that we, as Care for the Family, that's what we want to do. We want to help you make your children ready. And we have lots and lots of great resources to help you do that. And that's what we've been trying to do for many, many years now as a charity. And we've been able to do that many, many times, helping families in both the good times, but also in times of difficulty. But none of that would be possible without the support of our partners. Our partners at Care for the Family are individuals, couples, and families who have decided that they want to stand alongside us and help us to do what we do as a charity. And they do that by way of a regular monthly gift. Sometimes they give a small amount, sometimes a larger amount, sometimes for a long period of time, and sometimes for much shorter. And without their support, none of what we do would be possible. And so sometimes we need to say to people, would you consider becoming a partner with Care for the Family? Would you consider helping us to do more of the work that we do? Now, of course, some of you here will be partners already, and we're so grateful to you. And please believe me when I say that if you never give us another penny, we'll always be truly indebted to you. But costs go up, and they have gone up. And it could be that you're in a position just to increase your giving, even by a small amount, which could make a huge difference to what we're able to do as a charity. So whether you're able to become a partner today or whether you're already a partner and you're able to increase your giving, we've always felt that our partnerships should be a two-way affair. And so we've prepared a very special pack of resources for Spring Harvest to say thank you. And this pack has some incredible things in it. It has a selection of books by our founder, Rob Parsons, and his wife, Diane, and also our UK director, Catherine Hill, some lovely books which we've handpicked for you because we think that they may be helpful to you and they might make a difference to you or someone you love in your family life. So there's some great books there. We've got What They Didn't Teach Me in Sunday School by Rob Parsons. We've also got the lovely book by his wife, Diane, called Love, Die. We've got a classic Rob Parsons book called Let Me Tell You a Story, with all his best stories in it. And then Wonderful book by our UK director, Catherine Hill, her new book, Born Free, a call to be still, know God, and flourish in a hectic world. And then as well as that, we've got a brand new item called Storybox, which is a beautiful keepsake box for you to record and keep your family stories safe and your memories. It's got a journal inside and space for you to just keep all those treasures and record all the things about your family story. So some lovely resources there in a tote bag for you. So how do you do that? How do you become a partner with Care for the Family? Well, as we bring our session to a close, if you're able to, we'd love to speak to you on the stand just over there with my colleague. And we can help you there to fill in a form that you'll find in one of these leaflets, which are on your seats. There's a form at the back of that. There's an orange form if you're new to becoming a partner, and there is a blue form if you're already a partner and you're able to increase your giving. We'd love to speak to you at the stand just over there. You can fill in the form and pick up one of the packs to take away with you. Or else come and see us in the exhibition area. We're just over there in the back corner in the exhibition area. Come and see us during the week. We'd love to see you there, and you can become a partner. Well, thank you so much. You've been very kind in allowing me to share a little bit about our need for your support of our work. And if you can help us, we'd truly be grateful. We know that it's not possible or even desirable for everyone to become a partner, but if you can help us, we'd be really, really grateful. And we promise that whatever you give us, we will use it to strengthen family life. Let's welcome Robin back to take us through our final myth.
Okay. Okay, guys, well, we're nearly there. We're going to finish on time. We promise you that. And so the final myth. We're raising children. It's a myth. That's not our final objective. Our final objective is to raise adults. And as we go through the parenting journey, we want to be those assertive parents that Kate has just described. But in order for us to do that, we're going to need to change the way that we parent as our children grow, as they change. And a key way to think of that is to understand the parenting role in 4 different types of ways: trainer, controller, coach, and then consultant. Trainer, controller, coach, and then consultant. Well, the trainer one's pretty simple, isn't it? When they're really, really small, we train them to use the potty. We train them how to get the food in their mouth and not on their face and that kind of stuff. And then when they're a little bit older, we go into what I like to call the controller mode. We determine the timetable, the terms and conditions of life, don't we? We get to do all of that stuff. We get to say, this is what you're going to wear, this is when you're going to wear it, this is when you're not going to wear it, and this is when you are going to put clothes on, and all that kind of stuff. We get to do all of that stuff mostly. That's the controller. And then adolescence comes along, and we need to kind of start to change again into what might be best understood as a coaching role. You know, when Darby and Jake were young, we loved climbing mountains, Hannah and I, and we took them up all those mountains, and they just had to come with us. But then Darby hit about 9 or 10 years of age when adolescence started to kick in a little bit, and Darby suddenly found that she wasn't compatible with walking up mountains. 500 meters into anything with an incline, Darby would start whining like she'd been shot in the leg, and it wasn't pretty. And the reason it wasn't pretty was this: because my response was not brilliant parenting. I wanted her to climb that mountain, and I treated her like she was in SAS selection, and she wasn't. She was changing. My little girl was becoming a young woman, and I needed to change my parenting. And Hannah and I realized that our terms and conditions needed to change in our family, and we needed to make room for Darby. And we also needed, therefore, to become more like coaches and encouraging. Yeah, we got to write most of the rules. We got to decide whether there was a penalty or not. But our children still needed to be able to play the game more and more themselves. And we have to allow them that freedom. It's how they develop. It's how they learn. It's how their brain learns the difference between mistakes and not mistakes and common sense and consequences. We have to give them freedom to do that. When Darby reached university, she did year 1 and she said she wasn't enjoying it much. And then she said she wanted to change her course. So we said, great. So she changed the course. She did year 1 and year 2 of the new course. So now she's done 3 years. At the end of year 2 of the new course, she said she wasn't enjoying it much. And she decided she was going to quit university. Well, Hannah and I tried to coach her and, 3 years, all that debt, no degree and all that stuff. But you know what became apparent? We weren't coaching any longer. We were her consultants. She listened, she thanked us for advice, but she quit anyway. And we had to realize that we were no longer coaching, we were now her consultants. And there's a distinct difference between the two. It's this. We don't often get to choose our coaches in life, but we do get to choose our consultants. And if we still act like a coach, a trainer and controller when we should be a consultant, we will soon discover that they can sack their consultants as well. Ladies and gentlemen, all our children are different. And parenting is rather like flying a kite. We work and we work and we give it all we've got to try and get them airborne. And eventually, after many, many attempts of what feels like failure and falling, they go airborne. And then we have to begin to let the string go more and more and more and more until one day they are able to fly on their own. That is parenting. That's our final objective.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Legendary Talks. If you enjoyed it, make sure you hit subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and visit springharvest.org to find out more.